Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of the BENGEBUSTER Show. Coming to you live from studios in Race City, USA, Mooresville, North Carolina. Hello everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of the BENGEBUSTER Show. I hope everyone had a great holiday weekend. What a weekend it was for me. A lot of first for me. My daughter, who's 17 years old, went to her first prom, and I have to tell you, people, that was probably tougher than any wrestling match I've ever been in my life. It's tough watching them grow up, but you know, that's what life's about. You know, watching your kids grow and experience life changes and experiences, and prom is always one of those big things. You know, in teenagers' lives. Another great thing I did over the weekend, took my family. We went down to Myrtle Beach for the weekend. Really good time we had. That's, you know, I always like having time off, being able to spend time with my family and do fun things. And I tell you, the Myrtle Beach has changed so much over the years. I'm not going to get into that right now because this podcast is about wrestling and not the beach and all those kind of crazy things that happens. But spring is here. Spring is in the air, and what better thing to do in spring than to go to wrestling matches and concerts? And of course, that's two of my highlight things I like to do in my life. I love going to concerts, and I love wrestling, and that's what this show's about. And before we get to our guest, our sponsor this week is the NAWA Championship Wrestling. They have a big event coming up on May the 4th, and let's go right now to the commercial and hear about that upcoming event. It's the NAWA Family Affair, Saturday, May the 4th at the American Legion Hall in Lenore, North Carolina. Some of the matches you'll see is Stuart Snodgrass versus Mark Moore, King Classic versus Leo Pride, Chad Bird versus Tony Benz, and for the NAWA Tag Team titles, it's Golden Thunder versus the Burke County Boys. And in the main event, you will see Adam James defend his title against Big Time Ya. All this and much more, Saturday, May the 4th, at the American Legion Hall in Lenore, North Carolina. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 3 of the BENGEBUSTER Show, and my guest this week is none other than the head referee at CWF Mid Atlantic, Brian Jones. Brian, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, brother. How you been?
Man, I'm doing good. It's been a while since I've been on the same show as you.
It has been. It was CWF right before Motley played their last show, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. I was I think I worked that show up there with you guys, and then like a week later I flew out to LA for a few days and watched my favorite band, Motley Crue, play their final concert.
Man, and you couldn't sneak me in the luggage. Man, I'm disappointed in you.
Man, I'm
small.
I know, but I was trying to sneak everything I could in the luggage because it cost so much to check a bag. I was trying to get out there as cheap as I could so I could spend all my money in LA.
Nah, I understand. I'm jealous. I am jealous of you, though, because you got to see Motley play their last show.
Man, it was good. And speaking of Motley, you get a chance to check out the Motley Crue movie, The Dirt, yet?
I have. I love it. I love the book. I love the guys. I mean, I was disappointed. You know, I was expecting it not to be that good. And I was blown away. It was really good. I was really impressed. Although I think my wife is tired of me bitching about the timeline mistakes, but, you know, it is what it is. It's, you know, anybody that hasn't seen The Dirt needs to check it out because it's all the way live like it was back in the 80s.
Yeah, and, you know, one of the things that really blew my mind, well, it didn't really blow my mind because I just know how good Motley Crue is, but you know, Motley Crue's before now, the last time they had a number one album was 1990. I think I was a sophomore in high school, so we're talking like 1990, 91. Now we fast forward, it's 2018, their movie comes out, and then they release the soundtrack to that movie, and 2 days later it's like the number one album on iTunes.
Quick question: did you see him on the Dr. Feelgood tour?
I did. I saw him in Winston-Salem. That was matter of fact, that was my first Motley Crue concert.
See, that's another thing we're bonding with. Motley was my first metal show. It was Motley and Warrant, February 2nd, 1990, Dean Smith Center. So I seen him about a month and a half before you did.
Yep, and when I saw him, it was Motley Crue and Faster Pussycat. I think Warrant was supposed to be on the show, but I don't know what happened. But they wasn't there.
They went back to finish up the Cherry Pie album. They was finishing up Overdose for Cherry Pie.
Okay.
My cousin actually went to the Winston-Salem show too. So.
Yeah.
But when I seen them, not to cut you off, but when I seen them, Without You had been released as a single, and I think that pushed the album to number one. But they didn't play it live. That was the outro tape music as everybody was leaving the Coliseum.
Okay, yeah, because I believe whenever when I saw them, I believe Without You had already hit number one. Because I saw them March. It was so cool. They played March the 24th, 1990, at the Lawrence Joel Coliseum. And the day before, March 23rd, was my birthday. So my birthday present, I always tell everybody, Motley Crue played for my birthday. That's what they done.
Dude, this is totally ironic. February 5th is my birthday. February the 3rd is Vince Neil. So I seen him on the 2nd. And some of my friends had an extra ticket, and it was like, man, Red's a fan, let's go. So I actually seen Motley Crue for my 16th birthday as well.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. I'll tell you, all these young kids that never got the chance to see Motley Crue live, they really missed out on something.
Man, I have been fortunate. I've seen Motley a ton of times. I've seen them with every member that has toured with Motley. I've seen the original band. I've seen them in '94 at Karabi in an amphitheater that they had closed off the lawn. I've seen them with Samantha Mahoney playing drums in 2000, and I've seen them in '99 with Randy Castillo.
Oh wow! That's
so
awesome.
I have seen, I have seen every touring incarnation of Motley.
Yeah, now see, I never saw Karabi, and I never got to see Randy because when I had went to see Motley Crue on the New Tattoo tour, I think Randy had just gotten sick, and they had brought in Samantha to play because I was in Charlotte. They played at the Verizon Wireless, what used to be Verizon Wireless Amphitheater, and they played there. And I'm looking, I'm like, that don't. At first I said Randy dyed his hair, and then I was like, well, wait a minute, Randy's got boobs, and then Vince was like, no, this is Samantha Maloney from Hole, and I'm like, oh, cool, okay. And but man, she didn't miss a beat. She sounded really good, and I enjoyed the show.
Oh, Samantha's an amazing drummer. So check out some live Hole stuff if you really like Samantha, because her and Melissa really kicked that band into an extra gear.
Yeah, and one of the things that really got me into Samantha on that tour was, I played drums, and at the time, my drum kit was Sonar's, and that's exactly what she played. And I was like, hey, I can finally afford a drum kit that's played by Motley Crue, because I never could afford any of that Pearl stuff or Drum Workshop stuff that Tommy played. But man, I tried to get as close to as I could.
Oh man, that's awesome. I didn't even know you played drums, man. I've known you for almost. God, let's see, I've been in the business. This October will be 22 years, so I've known you just about my entire career. So.
Oh yeah, for definitely. I picked up drums when I was probably about 8 years old, it was kind of like one of those natural things. I just listened to the music and I could hear it, and then I would start watching it, and pretty soon I was all I gotta do now is kind of listen to a song a couple times, and I'm like, oh yeah, I can do that, and I play it, and it kind of blows people away. But now, I'm older, and I haven't had a drum kit in probably 8 years, and I've been trying to talk my wife into let me get one, and she's like, listen, you wrestle, you do a podcast, I think that's enough. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So maybe one day I can talk her back in and let me get another drum kit and maybe get a band started, who knows.
See, you're going from a different perspective. You need to get William a kit so you can teach William how to play.
Yeah, well,
and get you a kid to play along with him.
that's true, and I've tried that with her, but it doesn't work. My wife is from Boston. She's a little bit smarter than most of the women in the South. Not saying the women in the South are dumb, but I'm just saying those northern women are a whole lot harder to persuade than the southern women are.
Yeah.
Them Yankees have that. Them Yankees have a very strong personality.
Yeah. Well, she is from Boston. I am a Red Sox fan, so I'll give her props for that.
Yep, that's it. Well, let's get into some wrestling. So right now you're currently the head referee at CWF Mid Atlantic, and CWF runs shows how often a month?
We're usually running about 3 shows a month. We do 2 main shows, usually the first and third, second and fourth week of the month, and we try to do 1 RGL show. Our RGL is the Rising Generation League. It's mostly for guys that are just breaking in or have under 5 years experience, basically to give them extra ring time to work in front of a live crowd, because really that's where they're going to get. That's where they're going to get the business, is in front of a crowd. You can practice for hours and hours a day. You can stand in the mirror and cut promos, but until you're in front of a crowd that's either twiddling their thumbs or cheering you or booing you, you're not going to get it.
No, I totally agree with you, and I think that's a good thing that the CWF does, because a lot of promotions, they don't do that. I know when I started out, that they didn't do it for me. The company I started out with, basically all the new guys worked battle royals, and you just got the crap beat out of you, mostly.
I remember them days because I actually started in ring. I started wrestling. I haven't been refereeing forever.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought you did. I was about to get to that.
Yeah.
So getting to that, tell me how did you get your start in wrestling?
Oh, it's a good tale. I grew up like most everybody else in North Carolina because, as you know, we don't have any sports teams. We have college basketball and we have NASCAR, especially in the 70s and 80s. And the other major event is Jim Crockett Promotions. And I grew up in the Greensboro Coliseum every 2 weeks. Every other Saturday night they would run, or every 3 weeks. And my dad was a huge fan. My mom was a huge fan. So we would go, and I attended a lot of major events.
Oh yeah,
a lot of big events. I actually was going through my scrapbook that my dad started for me. I have pictures of the Hollywood Bronze, the original, the Buddy Roberts and Jerry Brown Hollywood Bronze.
Oh, nice.
Superstar Billy Graham, Andre the Giant, and these are like 77 shows where my dad would cut out the card announcements and the newspaper results and any articles. That's how big of a fan my dad was, and we would watch it together. And then I started wrestling in high school and got an eye opener. But yeah, 3 minutes on the amateur mat is a whole lot longer than 3 minutes in on the square circle.
Oh, for sure.
But I would read the aftermags. I'll admit it, I was a total mark. We all are. That's why we're in the business.
Right. I was about to say that. If you were a wrestler and you say you're not a mark, then you're not a real wrestler, because that being a mark is what gets you in this business, or gets you interested in this business, and makes you want to learn how to get into the business.
Exactly. And I hate people say that wrestling fans are just dumb marks. They're not dumb marks.
No, there's a lot of smart ones out there, that's for sure.
And it's not the ones that call themselves smart marks. They're the ones that know the business,
mm-hmm.
but enjoy and suspend the disbelief. And really, that's all we want.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Nothing makes me feel better is when I'm on a show or working at it in front of a big crowd or a small crowd, doesn't matter. But during intermission, you get a fan to come up to you and say, "Man, Tony, the first couple matches, were okay, but man, what you did was so entertaining. I really enjoyed it," and that really touches my heart to know that my hard work and our hard work and everybody's hard work makes a difference in somebody's life.
you know, I can agree. I totally agree. As I'll greet anybody, any fan. I talk constantly. So, yeah, you know this. How many times we just ate up time in the locker room?
Yeah.
But you know, if a fan comes up, treat them with respect because they're paying the way for us to do what we want to do.
Right. Yeah.
The fans are the most important people because if they're not entertained, then they're going to spend their dollars somewhere else. And in these tough economies, if they decide to spend their hard-earned dollars with us, we need to earn it.
Right. Yeah.
We don't need to go out there and half-ass anything or rely on reputation.
No, when my goal every time I walk through that curtain is I know those people have worked hard all week. They have sacrificed their time away from their family, and for 2-3 hours they brought their family to one of our wrestling events. And I think as a wrestler we owe it to them to give them everything we have because they have spent everything that they've had to come watch us.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, and I'll be honest, this is a dream I've had since I was a 3-year-old kid. So I'm living my dream.
Yeah, you and me both.
And you don't know what kid out there is going through a hard time that might be 20 years from now where we are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, we got to admit, times are tougher than when you grew up.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
There's more opportunities, but there's less hope.
Right. And one of the things,
we can give them a little bit of hope for 2 hours, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. And, one of the things I remember as a kid growing up, wrestlers were not easy accessible like they are today. When I was a kid, if I was growing up and they had these autograph sessions to where you pay a ticket to go in and get to meet the Rock'n'Roll Express or Dusty Rhodes or Ric Flair, man, if they had those things back in my day, I would have saved my milk money for 2 years just to go there because, when I was a kid, I guess my grandfather and my father kind of introduced me to wrestling growing up, but I guess probably between 84 and 87 was probably the highlights of my childhood that I remember. To me, it was like the best times of wrestling. I mean, back then you didn't have cable, you didn't have 200 channels, and you definitely didn't have the network where you could watch anything you wanted. But wrestling would come on Saturdays. It would start at 10. Well, actually, it started at 8:05 after cable came out. But before cable, wrestling would come on at for me 10 o'clock in the morning. It was WWF Superstars. Then at 11 o'clock, it was World Class Championship Wrestling from Texas. Then at 12 o'clock, it was Mid Atlantic Wrestling. And so for the first 3 hours of my Saturday, I watched wrestling. That's all I'd done. And then I'd go outside and ride my bike and play and all that kind of fun stuff. But at 6 o'clock, I was right back in the house because on Channel 8, Worldwide Wrestling came on with David Crockett and Tony Schiavone. And that was great. But then cable came out, and it was like, man, Vince McMahon was on USA. The NWA was on WTBS. I spent a lot of my time watching wrestling. I remember my neighbors would come and knock on the door and be like, ask my mom, can Tony come out and play? And she's like, yeah, he come out and play. I'm like, no, I can't. I'm watching wrestling. Because I would rather watch wrestling than go outside and play with my friends because that's how much I loved it. And kind of like you said your dad used to take you to the Coliseum. I'm sure we probably ran into each other and didn't even know it because my dad brought me to almost every house show they would have. I seen some of the greatest angles growing up as a kid at the Greensboro Coliseum, like the angle with where the Horseman rubbed Ricky Morton's face in the concrete. I was there for that. Oh man,
I missed that show.
Oh man, it was great, and I knew something happened because back then they didn't have the screen, so you didn't know what happened. But it was a 8-man. The way they set it up, of course, at that time they were building the angle with Ricky Morton and Ric Flair, but it was an 8-man elimination tag match. It was the Four Horsemen, Ole, Arn, Tully, and Flair against the Rock'n'Roll Express, Magnum TA, and Dusty Rhodes. And the way they did it, as you got pinned, you were eliminated. Well, the last two in the ring was Ric Flair and Ricky Morton, and Ricky Morton pinned Ric Flair. And then Dusty and Magnum and Robert came back to the ring, and they congratulated Ricky, and they all walked to the back. and then you see the horsemen walking to the back, and they were walking down. And if you remember the Greensboro Coliseum, where it used to be, the heels would come out on the left hand side, and the baby faces come out right there in the center. And and I saw, and I'm watching it, and the horsemen they start walking down like they're going into the heel locker, the hillside, and then they turn and they go down that hallway where the baby faces came out at. And I told my dad, I said, they're going to go beat up Ricky Morton. And Dad's like, oh no, they can't go back there. The cops won't let them. And then the very next week, they showed, David Crockett says, I got to show you something that happened at the Greensboro Coliseum. And lo and behold, there's a horseman beating up, the Rockland Express in the baby locker room and rubbing Ricky's face in the concrete, and off they went with that tremendous angle. And you know how that went down. I mean, that drew huge crowds, and they just kept, they got the most of that angle, because first they rubbed his face in the concrete, then they broke his nose, and it was just, it just kept going that whole summer. And imagine this: if Ricky Morton would have broke up the Rockland Express and kept feud with Ric Flair, and they put the world title on him, can you imagine how popular he would have been? Or more popular than what he is, than what he was,
Exactly. You're talking about how popular Rock and Roll Express was. I go back a little bit further. I remember the rise of Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood.
Oh yeah, I remember that too. That was great.
Really set the tone for that, because you had two young, athletic guys that just, no matter who they faced, they was the top team. I was actually there for the final conflict show, and it was so bad. It was legit. Traffic was backed up I-40 on the interstate.
Oh yeah.
We got to the Coliseum, parked, and was going inside, and there was police officers that you had to physically show your ticket to get inside the building, because at the old Coliseum, before they remodeled it in 1992, they had ticket windows in the lobby that you could buy tickets before you went inside.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
All those were shut down and locked.
Oh
it
yeah,
was completely sold out.
Because they were sold out.
And they legit turned away about 5,000 people.
Oh yeah. Speaking of that area you're talking about, you just reminded me of a cool story. So in '86, when Magnum TA and Nikita Koloff were in their feud for the U.S. title, it was a house show there one night right after Great American Bash. Or I'm sorry, this was before the Bash. It was getting into the Bash. Magnum was still the U.S. champion, and he was defending the belt that night against Nikita Koloff. And this was back when Crockett was running that gimmick, all seats in the upper balcony, only $5. So we wouldn't get tickets until that day, because we'd always get the $5 seats. Well, I remember standing there at the box office, and of course that place was packed, jam-packed, people everywhere. And I'm right there at that ticket booth waiting for my dad to get the tickets, and I start hearing USA, USA. They're going crazy, and I'm like, what in the world? And I turn around, and right as I turn around, there's Nikita Koloff and Ivan Koloff, and Nikita pushes me out of the way, because I guess when they got to the building, the back gate was locked and they couldn't come in, so they had to come through the main entrance into the Coliseum, and they had so much heat. Oh my gosh, it was. I thought everybody in that Ticketmaster area was going to attack them. But I remember Nikita shoved me out of the way, because I was standing right there and he was trying to get through, and I was like, and it blew me away, because here I am, like 10, 11 years old, and I'm like, I just got pushed by Nikita Koloff, and I was terrified of Nikita Koloff, just like I'm sure a lot of other kids were, because on TV he was such a monster, and so in real life I'm thinking this is the same guy. And when he pushed me to get through the crowd, I'm like, man, in my mind I'm thinking, now, not now, but then I'm like, my gosh, what if he'd have gave me the Russian sickle on the floor? I'd have been dead. I was just thinking that as a kid, and I was like, man. But yeah, I'm it's kind of neat how they redone the Coliseum. But back then, the Ticketmaster booth was right there at the entrance.
Yeah, and it was used to be easy, especially meet baby faces as they come in. I met a ton of them just in the lobby, because you could go around where they parked.
Oh yeah,
and wait inside, and they would come through the doors. And I met Jay Youngblood, a ton of guys. Jimmy Valiant, the first time, 30 years later.
Oh yeah, great guy.
it's just really surreal.
Oh yeah, it
You
blows
know,
me away. Like I've told Jimmy Valiant this story so many times, but it just blows me away. I told him, I said, first time he was at my house was having breakfast, and I told him, I said, Boogie, I said, you ain't gonna believe this. I said, it's so crazy. He said, what do you mean? I said, when I was 10 years old, I would put a bandana on my head and run around the house singing "Boy from New York City" and dropping elbows on everybody. I said, and now here you are in my kitchen eating breakfast with me. And he goes, isn't it crazy how life can be sometimes? I said, yeah,
it really is. I mean, I have the 45 for Boy from New York City, the Manhattan Transfer version.
mm-hmm,
And the only reason I bought the 45 in 1982 was because that's what Jimmy Valiant came to the ring to.
yeah, yeah.
I mean,
I like that song. When I hear that song, it gets me going. But I like the song he had when he was with Crockett, the Boogie Woogie song. That was a cool song.
that is slowly, 32 years later, is slowly creeping up on me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of digging it now, but I'm still a huge Son of a Gypsy fan.
Oh yeah, I was about to say I love that one when he had "Son of a Gypsy" because when Boogie and I were running a lot of shows together, he told me, he's like Tony, I want you to start using this song, and I'm like, yeah, but my name ain't Handsome Jimmy. He goes, yeah, but you can be Handsome Tony, but I want you to use this song. He said because I think it fits your character, and so for a long
Nice.
time, I used that song, and I know I'm trying to remember. There's so, these years were kind of vague for me, but around 2002, when NEW was running Thomasville, were you working those shows?
That's when Kurt was at the flea market, right?
Yes.
No, I had actually broke my ankle at the end of 2001,
Okay.
and then took some time off to heal. Um, Tried to come back. I did a couple of shows with Willie G and Rock Roberts
Mm-hmm.
at the VFW Hall in Winston,
Okay.
and then me and my first wife started having problems. I took time off to deal with real life. I think I should have stayed in the ring and just let that go because that's eventually what happened anyway.
Right.
But
Yeah.
but
Hindsight.
no, I had worked with Kurt when he was at the Click, and
Okay.
then I came back and worked with Kurt in 2003 when he was running at the VFW Hall.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So
What?
I totally missed the entire flea market deal.
Okay. Yeah. The flea market deal was great. I told a funny rib story last week about the flea market. I'll kind of give you a little bit of it here in a little bit, but yeah, that was probably the last time I used "Son of a Gypsy" because I used it a lot, and then I used it there, and then Curtis had me change my gimmick a little bit, and well, actually, Curtis didn't really change my gimmick. The fans did. There was a young up and coming kid who now is doing tremendous work in the independent scene, Leo Riker, but at the time he was known as Trent Wild, and Kurt had this idea to put he and I together because Kurt's like, this he's a young upcoming kid, but he has a vision, and I think putting you with him will help him get there. And of course, he and I came out as heels. We were called TNT, Trent and Tony, and we were heels, and so we started coming out to TNT by ACDC, but and we were heels, and at the time, to look at us, I mean, we looked like baby faces, but we were heels, and we were coming out doing.
Yeah.
We were ripping off everybody, the Freebirds, Midnight Express, whatever. We were just having a good time, and the crowd was not booing us that much, and so I told Trent, I said, man, we got to really get the. I mean, if we're gonna be heels, we got to do something. And but it didn't matter what team that they would put us against, they would cheer. I mean, they would boo us a little bit, but not a lot. And I remember one night we shot some angle with one team. I can't remember who they were now. And the crowd got, they hated us. We finally got them hating. I told Trent, I said, man, finally they're hating us. And then the next week we were supposed to have a match against that same team. And by this time we were the NEW Tag Team Champions, and we was beating everybody. And Kurt's like, man, you guys are almost there to be baby faces, so I'm just gonna keep the belts on you guys for a while. I was like, all right. And so he brings in a team called UNOD, which was Drake Tungsten and can't remember his partner's
Hubie
name.
Johnson.
Hubie Johnson, yeah. And man, let me tell you what, when those guys came out and we worked those guys, we were heels. The week before, we had beat up a babyface team, and the crowd there hated us because NEW done weekly shows.
Yeah.
So the very next week we're defending tag belts against UNOD, and as soon as UNOD come out, the crowd's booing them. When we came out, the roof went off, and I remember Randy Hedrick was over there, and he used to have this little sign about "I'm over, damn it." And I grabbed the microphone and I said, I don't get you people. I said, last week we're out here, you guys are booing us out of the building. This week you're cheering us. I said, that just tells me one thing. And Randy's looking at me and I'm looking at Trent. I said, we're over, damn it. And when I said that, the place went nuts, and we were baby faces from then on out. And man, we had some really good matches with UNOD. I really loved the work that we did together. And then I think Trent ended up quitting NEW, and then we forfeited the belts, and off we went. And then I think there were some issues there at the flea market with the city ordinance. They thought we was having too many people in the building, so I think they ended up shutting it down. But Kurt had a good thing there at that flea market. He really did.
Kurt had good things going no matter where he ran. The Click shows was really good. A lot of good young talent, a lot of good old talent. Crowd was decent. I think he just had, like you said, he had problems with the building. BFW was good too, and which was almost my second home at one time.
Yeah.
Because to get back to the original question, since we're going on this 20-minute tangent.
That's okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good. We have a lot of connections I didn't even know we had.
Yeah, it's pretty neat when you sit down and talk because regardless of where everybody is or how many wrestling companies there are in North Carolina, everybody has a connection at some way somehow. It doesn't matter how or when, but you're connected to each other because wrestling is really a big family. It really is.
Yeah, it really is, and we have that family connection. I don't know if you know this or not. Your cousin is Tanya Houston, right?
Right. Yeah.
She grew up with my wife, Gidget.
Oh wow! Yeah.
So yeah, that's another.
Yeah, I mean Thomasville's a small town. Everybody knows everybody there too, and but yeah. I remember her telling me that. I was like, wow, that's a small world. It really is. Well, and incidentally, I'm the one that introduced her and Matt Houston together. She when Kurt was running those shows there in Thomasville, she came with me to the show one day, and Henry came up or Matt Houston came up to me and he goes, "Hey brother, who's the blonde with you? Is that your girl?" I'm like, "No, that's my cousin." He's like, "Oh," he's like, "Is she married?" I said, "Well, it depends on how you look at it." I said, "Is she married? Yes. Are her and her husband together? No." He goes, "Brother, you got to hook me up." I said, "Go hook yourself up. Just go talk to her." And so he did, and now, I don't know, 10, 11 years later, they're still together, and they have a beautiful family, and they're it's crazy how life works like that. You just right place, right time.
It really is. I mean, this is my Name's Gidget's second go around. I'm sure she's gonna kill me when she hears this, but knowing her, she don't listen to wrestling podcasts, so
you probably safe.
But no, we dated back in 1998, 1999, and I'm 7 years older than her.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I was in a different place, and she was in a different place, and I split up with her. It was all me. And as she tells me, she said, "Yeah, you messed up and dumped me, and now you're paying for it."
Yep.
But we reconnected 10 years after that on MySpace. Just talked,
Mm-hmm.
and she wouldn't be around me in person. We talked. I mean, we renewed the friendship, but we talked and never hung out or anything for like 3 years. And then we went and hung out, and we've been together, That was August of 2012. And we've pretty much been together the entire time since then, even when we wasn't dating. And in June will be 5 years of marriage. So,
Well, that's great.
yeah.
That's real good. Yeah. Relationships are tough. Some of the advice I always get is just is always says the wife is always right. And that's true to a point. I mean, my thing is behind every good man. I'm sorry. Yeah, behind every good man is a good woman.
Oh, yeah.
As much as men don't want to admit it, you have to admit it. Your wife is, or your girlfriend, whichever the case may be. That's always your driving force to get you to do whatever you do, what your job or wrestling or music or whatever it is. Your wife is the one that pushes you to do whatever it is. For some guys,
I guess.
The wife pushes them out of the wrestling business, and some wives push them in the business. And like my wife goes, wrestling is your thing. It's not for me. She might come to a show here and there, but she's not going to come all the time because it just isn't her thing, and that's okay. That works for us. Some other couples, the wife has to be there all the time, and some guys let their wife kind of dictate their whole wrestling career, which a lot of times isn't a good thing. But at the end of the day, relationships and marriage is what you make it.
It really is. I guess I have a leg up with Gidget because her stepdad used to be a manager, and he was actually a manager with the first company I worked with. So she understood the lifestyle.
Right, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't come in and BS her, hey, I'm a wrestler, it's called a business. She's like, no. She called me and said, look, motherfucker, this is really what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But she also gives me the freedom. She's like, okay, this is your thing. Handle your business. Do what you got to do. She'll go to a show every now and again. A lot of times she stays at home and watches live PD. And I'm like, okay,
mm-hmm.
That's cool. Do your thing. Yep. And we're good. I mean, but yeah, like what you was talking about earlier with the Saturday mornings. I'm in Mebane, which is in between Burlington and Durham.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have my TV channels with a lot of carryover, a lot of crossover, a little bit different. My Saturday mornings was wake up at 9 o'clock, turn up to channel 22 out of Raleigh, watch Three Stooges, World Class at 10, Worldwide at 11, turn it to channel 12 at 12 from Mid Atlantic, 40 or 45 was WWF at 1, and then I had from like 2 until 6 to do whatever. 6 o'clock, I was back home. But before we got cable, we got Worldwide at 6 o'clock on channel 48.
Yeah, that's right. It was 48. I remember.
And then at 7, they kind of rotated because you had Pro Wrestling This Week for a while. You had Florida. You had ICW, which was the Mario Saboldi promotion out of Boston. At 7, it kind of rotated for a bit. And then at 11:30, Channel 5 would show the previous week's Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. And then Sunday you had like, in 87 you had like UWL, Power Pro.
Oh, yeah.
Wrestling show.
And Glow.
And
you can't forget
Superstar.
Glow.
And no, you cannot forget Glow. Glow was, as Ric Flair says, all the way live.
It was definitely that. Glow was something else.
And through the wonders of Facebook and being fans, I've actually met and become, Facebook friends with some of the Glow girls.
Mm-hmm.
Namely being Hollywood. And Hollywood was all the way live in 1987.
Yeah. Well, I remember, at one point I was in a bad car accident and hurt my back. So I didn't know if I'd get to wrestle again, but at the time, I owned my own ring. And so I rented my ring out to this guy to do a show. And on that card, he had Bunkhouse Buck from WCW and he had Peggy Lee Leather versus Bambi, and I ended up getting to ref both of those matches, and I remember meeting Peggy Lee Leather in the locker room and talked to her for a little bit. You know, she was really nice lady, and so was Bambi. And but man, when I got in the ring and was working with those, I was like, man, these girls are hitting each other harder than some of the guys I've been in the ring with before. I'm like, geez. But I guess back in those days they had to, because the women wrestling wasn't like it is today.
No.
I mean, a women's wrestling match was kind of like a special attraction, like a midget wrestling match or something like that. It was a special attraction. It wasn't something that you saw on every show.
No. And it's funny you mentioned the midgets. Another first for you in my career. The first time I refereed one of your matches, we'd been on shows together throughout.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever had reffed your match. I think was for Matt Houston.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Holiday shows.
Yep.
When you wrestled a midget. That was the first time I had worked in the ring with a midget.
Yep, me too. And I remember that was such a fun show, because if anybody knows me, or the guys that know me really well, know I enjoy doing a lot of comedy spots, because I just think the crowd loves it, and it kind of gives them a break. And like Boogie always tells me, he's like, Tony, what I like about you is you can get out there and get the crowd hot, and they're ready to kill you one minute, and the next minute you got them laughing at you, and they don't know whether to hate you or to give you a hug. And so when I got the call from Matt gives me a call and says, hey, I need a big favor from you. You can say no if you want to, but everybody thinks that you would be the best candidate for this. And I'm like, okay, what? He goes, well, I got the midgets coming. I said, yeah. He goes, well, now it's only one. And I was like, okay, so what do you want me to do? He goes, I want you to work a match with this other midget. And I'm like, what? I said, how's that going to go? He goes, oh, it'll be easy. Just do your comedy stuff. And man, looking back, that was a fun match for me.
Some of the best matches are the fun ones. I mean, it's like, why you got to be so serious all the time? Let's just cut loose and have fun.
Right.
We had these people attention. We're basically running around in underwear.
Right. And
shouldn't we act a fool? And
one of the things that I think a lot of people don't get is a lot of upcoming wrestlers now feel like everything they do has got to be so serious. But if you go back and look at some of the guys that have held those 20, 30,000 people, whatever's in that building, in their hand, it comes from that Memphis comedy wrestling. Those like Jerry Lawler and Bill Dundee and Eddie Gilbert and Jimmy Valiant. I mean, those guys could go out there and tear the house down, but they also can put the funny stuff, the funny spots in that really that really entertains the people.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have variety. I don't need to see 800 tumbling acts in a 2-hour show.
No.
I don't need to see 5 matches of chain wrestling. Give me some ha-ha, give me some, jumping monkeys, and give me some serious chain wrestling, and I'm good.
Right, me too. Now, getting back into wrestling deep as far as the Crockett years and everything. Who was since you're a referee? Who was your favorite referee?
Tommy Young.
Oh yeah, bar none. I mean, he was mine too.
It begins and ends with Tommy Young.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had the pleasure of working shows with Tommy Young. I've had, Tommy Young pull me to the side and say, look, you need to quit bumping like that or your career is going to be short.
Mm-hmm.
But, getting advice from people that you look up to is really good.
Oh, yeah.
Another good referee, actually two, that really get overlooked is Sonny Fargo.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And Stu Swartz. And I didn't really appreciate Stu Swartz a lot until, probably the last couple of years when I started finding the older stuff on the network. and started really paying attention to other referees and what they was doing in the ring and how I could incorporate it into what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And I just found out he came up from Florida, so to work for Eddie Graham and to be one of his ring generals that he trusts in the ring,
That's great.
the referee really was a general, because you had to be able to control a match.
Mm-hmm.
And call a match if somebody got sidetracked or something happened. And so, yeah, I look at Stu Swartz with new appreciation.
Well, you know, I've been wrestling now about 26, 27 years, and I've worked with a ton of referees. I've worked with, you know, guys that really knew what they were doing, and I've worked on shows with referees that should have bought a ticket, or they should be able to sell them popcorn, because they know nothing about. They're just standing in the corner, holding the corner up, you know, whatever. But to me, and this takes me to my next question. But I'm going to tell you my answer, and then we'll go take yours. But my question is, what do you think makes a good ref? My opinion, a good ref is someone that is that knows how to work the crowd. Because I hate one of the things, and I'm a nice guy. You know me for a long time. I have never, ever intentionally hurt anybody in the match. But one time I had this referee that blew every spot that I tried to do. He was a mark, basically, and you know the deal. Not to smarten up too many people, but you know the deal when the heel's got his foot on the rope and the referee counts. You know, the babyface is selling, and the heel takes the foot down. The referee sees the rope shaking. He asks him, "Did you do that?" No, I didn't do it. No, I didn't do it. Ask the people, did he have his foot on the rope? Yeah. No, he didn't. No, I didn't. You know, whatever. You argue with the referee. The referee's starting to listen to the people. You're in that little spot. And this guy, I would do that spot, and he'd get your foot off the rope. I said, my foot went on the rope. Yes, your foot on. And he starts counting me 1, 2, and he did it twice. So finally, the finish of the match was me and my partner was supposed to get disqualified, and the deal to get disqualified was we were supposed to chunk the guy over the top rope. I decided to go punch the referee, so that's what I did. I went over and knocked the crap out of him, and then he didn't disqualify me. He got up like he's going to fight, and I remember hearing my partner go, "Ref, you better disqualify us, or you're going to get killed." And and so that's what we did. He disqualified us, and we got back in the locker room. After the promoter got done yelling at him, then I came over and yelled at him and told him he was lucky that that at the time I was like 24 years old, 25 years old. I said, "You're lucky I'm only 160 pounds, because if I was bigger," I said, "I would kill you." I said, "Because people like you is the reason why this business isn't as good as it used to be, because you don't know what you're doing. In your eyes, you're doing what you think is right, but what you're doing is wrong." I said, "The referee is dumb. You are supposed to be dumb. You're supposed to be stupid. You're not supposed to catch me when I'm cheating until I tell you to catch me." But he would catch me every time, and I finally, about the 6th or 7th time, I told my partner Jeff, I said, "I'm fixing to knock this son of a gun out," and he's like, "Oh, tag me in, brother, tag me in." And he wanted to get me out of there because he knew I was getting ready to get hot. And then finally, I said, "Hey, I'm changing the finish." And my friend Jeff goes, "What do you mean changing the finish?" I said, "We're not throwing him over the top rope." I said, "I'm knocking the ref out." He goes, "Oh Lord!" And I remember hearing my cousin Mark go, "Oh God, here we go." And of course I did. I nailed him. And but you know, that's one of the things that I can't stand is people like that don't know that you know, that just screw it up.
Well, I have a different take, but I agree with a lot of what you say. My biggest pet peeve is, and I know when people hear this, they're gonna say you're a hypocrite because you have so much personality in the ring. But nobody's paying to watch the referee. The referee is not putting no asses in the seats.
Right.
So we do not need to be the focus of the match. You do not need to be a superstar. You need to be visible only when you need to be seen.
Yeah,
you need to.
And the other thing that a good ref knows is when the match is stinking, then he knows to let the guys know, hey guys, I know you want to get all your stuff in, but you guys got to go home because you guys are done. And and like one of the best compliments I've ever got in the match was as I was working for this show, and me and my little crew were doing a tag team match, and the promoter gave us, I think he told us, go 10 minutes, but go home in 7. Well, 5 minutes was our opening spot, and the crowd's popping, they're going nuts, and I looked at the referee, I'm like, ref, how much time we got? He said, his words were, who cares? This is the best stuff I've seen up here in 20 years. So keep going, and if you get any heat with the office, I'm going to tell them that I told you to keep going. And we ended up working like a 30-minute match. The crowd was going ballistic. We get back to the locker room, and the promoter goes, hey, what happened to the 7 minutes? And I said, I don't know. I kept asking the ref how much time we had, and he told us we had 5 more minutes and 5 more minutes, and he kept adding 5 minutes to it. I said, then he told me something about that he was glad to finally have somebody up here that could work, and the promoter goes, oh, is that what he said? I said, yeah, and he said, well, he's probably right. He said, you guys done good. I was like, wow. And then he wanted to come back all the time, and so that right there is another thing I'm talking about, a smart referee. That referee, even though that promoter said go 5 minutes, he knew what we were doing at the time was good, and he knew if we took it home at that point, the crowd was going to definitely miss out on a really really fun time.
Yeah, that's definitely something, and I mean at CWF I have a lot of leeway that I'm able to say, hey, take it home. You lost them.
Right. Yeah.
If the crowd's not into it, I'm a big proponent. Take it home, get to the back, regroup. Maybe you can bring it back in 2 weeks.
Yeah, for sure.
But if they're sitting on their hands and looking at their phones, you're not doing nothing but you're practicing.
Yeah, exactly. Take it home. Go. Let somebody else come out there and see what they can do. Now, speaking of crazy things in wrestling, I was on this show with you. Let's go back in time about the craziest thing you ever, or craziest or scariest moment that's ever happened to you in the ring.
Oh, I know where you're going. There's been a couple. There's been a couple, and somehow they involve the same people.
They're right. I was thinking that.
Yeah, Joe and Damian Storm. God. Yeah, there's the ones I get into trouble with the most. And they was basically my trainers. I broke in '97. It's funny how everybody says that they broke into the business. We never got in. We always broke in like we had to rob the place to get in.
Right. Yeah.
I've always found that funny. It's like jail. You have to break in something to get in, and you're in for life.
Yep. Exactly. Same thing with wrestling. Once it's in your blood, it's in your blood. But yeah, what I was thinking about was the time that I don't know who was running the show. I want to say it was Ken Spence, but no, it was not. It was the Storm Brothers. But
it was me and Joe.
Right. Yeah. Had that show in Thomasville. It was a cage match, and the main event was the Storm Brothers versus the Terminators. And I think at the end of the night, the building was chairs were being thrown not by the wrestlers but by the people. And I had left right before it happened, but I got the phone call and said, "Man, why'd you leave? We needed your help." I'm like, "For what?" To break up the riot, because the family of the Terminators were breaking the cage down, coming in the ring.
They never got into the ring.
Okay,
they
that's
tried
good.
to.
Oh, that's good.
Oh yeah, trust me. We were safe. I was in the ring. I was good. But no, like I said, Thanksgiving night, Terminators, local Thomasville legends. I've been there for years. I remember going with some of my friends, Lexi Fife and her husband at the time, Mike, who played in a local Burlington cover band called Toys. Is actually how I got into the business. See, everything loops back.
Mm-hmm.
I was hanging out with them, and Tim Blaze got Brandy Wine in. Brandy Wine got Lexi in, and Lexi and Brandy got me in, and I trained with Ken Spence. Damian Storm, started working out. He had already been trained, but he started working out in the class I came through with. And it was just me, him, and Jeff Knotts. Joe Storm was the class before. That also included like Wendell Smooth and Tommy Steele, those guys. Joe and Damien started teaming together, and I was kind of like their training dummy. Hey, Red, come here and take this. We want to work this out. Okay. But so that's who I grew up with, and they're really my brothers, and not just in the business.
Well, you know, but some of Ken's guys I kind of started with too. The Lumbee Warrior. I had him in his second match.
Wow. That's another cat that does not get enough appreciation.
Oh no! The first time I worked him, I told Ken, I said, Lumbee's going to be something special one day, and Ken's like, yeah, okay, you know, because at the time I was green, I was just new, I hadn't been working but maybe a year, but our match went so smooth that I could tell for this to be this guy's second match, he's going to be really good one day.
Yeah,
Lumbee, and of course he was.
Really good. Lumbee smooth. I had tore up my knee and came back, and my first match was against Lumbee, and we basically did an 8-minute headlock series with a couple of tackles and hip tosses and body slams and suplexes thrown in, and had the crowd rocking and rolling. Just very basic. You know, my first match, testing out the knee, making sure it was okay, and Lumbee really does not get a lot of credit he deserves. A lot of Lumbee's good early stuff was not seen by people now.
Oh no, definitely not. And you know, and every time when I say Lumbee, it's kind of like when I see you. We just pick up where we left off at, you know.
Exactly. But yeah, back to the Thomasville Riot. We Thanksgiving night. You gotta love Thanksgiving in Thomasville.
Oh yeah.
I spent way too many of them there. But me and Joe Storm had restarted ECPW, kind of bringing it back to Thomasville. We did some shows. They built and built and built. Nothing really like it was in the 90s, but decent crowds. I mean, we wasn't breaking the bank, but we wasn't hanging ourselves because of attendance either. So, you know, that's a good thing. So, you know, Thomasville, or Terminators are legend in Thomasville. We brought them back. We give like a honor club, Hall of Fame, whatever you want to call it, just to honor the legends that night. We honored Lumbee, Rick Link, Bobby Fulton, and the Terminators, and Dave Ruth.
Dave Ruth. I was about to say Dave, yeah.
I cannot.
Dave's another good one.
Praising Dave, yeah. Dave is like my referee godfather. If I have a problem, I go to Dave. But you know, one of the greatest compliments is he said, "If I had to pass the torch, I'd pass it to you." I'm like, okay, I can retire now.
Yeah. Dave was great. And the couple of shows I worked for Ken, Dave was my referee both times, and he'd always compliment me and tell me, "Man, Tony, that was good. You did really good tonight." And I always enjoy working with Dave.
Yeah, Dave's a great guy. Period. In and out of the ring, as good as he is as a referee, he's a better person.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And I don't think anybody has a bigger collection of autographs than Dave.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to find my way in the wheel to get half of them.
Man, he's got everybody.
Ain't working. Yeah.
Well, maybe one day when I'm a famous podcaster, I'll make sure I send him an 8x10 glossy autograph of me.
Yeah. We so like you were saying, so they come to the ring. One of the fans either hit Joe or pushed him, and Joe shoved him back into the wall. I'm like, oh, it's going to be one of them nights.
Here it goes. Yep.
Yeah. And they still had a match to do. Terminators hadn't even come out of the locker room yet. And so they do the match. Terminators win, you know. And at this point, the crowd's trying to get into the cage. I'm like, okay. and round up security. This is what we're going to do. Y'all throwing a wedge, we're going to come out. We're going to be behind y'all. I don't care who's in front of you. Run over them. Get us to the locker room. It didn't happen that way. So they Storm stayed in the cage. Japan's fall. Terminators came back, beat on Storm some more, and left. We've all got to the back. I think my most memorable line that night was the sergeant over the armory said, "If y'all don't get the hell out of my fucking building, I'm gonna go get every M16, load them, and I'll start shooting you idiots." I'm like,
there it is.
Live.
They were out.
Yeah. So so yeah, that was that. That was a little bit live wire. And so me and Joe go to WrestleCade 2 days later, and come to the building. Bobby Fulton goes, "There they are." I'm like, oh. So Bobby Fulton's telling Bill Eadie and Barry Darsow, and we're explaining what happened. And he goes, "It's good to see some people still believe."
Yeah.
So
for sure.
So yeah, that's kind of our little WrestleCade moment as promoters, but it was fun. A couple other times, been at ringside with the Storm Brothers. Fans got a little too close to the action. Thought they was part of the action. End result, me and the Storms was the last people to leave the building with police escorts. So
yeah, I've been there a couple times too. It's fun on one end, and the other end you're like, man, I could have lost my life. Yeah. I'll tell this quick story, then we'll have to wrap up. But I remember talking about Thomasville. I was in Thomasville one day working for Kurt, and I was babyface, and we brought in Jimmy Valiant, the Boogie Woogie Man, and I turned heel on him. And when I did, I hit him with a loaded glove, and I take his award, and I'm leaving the ring, and Rob the Bull McBride and Brian from Fair Warning Band, they hit the ring, and I scoot out, and I look over, and this guy goes, "I'll cut your throat." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, well, sit down, you old man." And he reached in his pocket, and I looked down, and he had a knife. And I was like, "Whoa!" So I backed on up. I didn't let him know I was scared, even though I was. I knew I had about 5 steps in front of him. I knew I could get out of there, but I back up, and then I told security, I was like, "You better get that fool." I said, "He's got a knife." And of course they went over there, and he said he didn't, and they didn't search him. But I know that night when I came out to wrestle Boogie, I went on the other side of the ring. I wasn't about to walk past that guy because I wasn't about to get cut. I wasn't like Roddy Piper going, "Oh, come on," whatever. But yeah, that's some good stuff. Now, what do you got going on right now? Or so basically you just doing CWF stuff?
Yeah, doing CWF. We just had a show last weekend. We got a big show coming up May 3rd and 4th. It's a 2-day tag team tournament. It's our Kernodle Brothers Cup tournament, honoring Don and Rocky Kernodle. It's also Don Kernodle's 69th birthday, so come out and sing happy birthday to Big Don.
Oh, that's good.
This coming Sunday in Raleigh for American Lucha, they got a big tag team tournament coming up. They crowned their tag champions last weekend. No, the 14th. I was in High Point for RWA. They have a show. Their next show is May the 12th, which is Mother's Day. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes over. But they've got Johnny Fairplay as one, and Matt Coons as one as their TV commentaries. Got really good talent. Their champion is Timothy Zabisco, son of Larry Zabisco, grandson of Bert Gagne.
Oh, very nice.
Yes, a lot of good young talent, a lot of good veteran talent. Let's see, who else? I got shows coming up. Well, that's really it. CWF. You can reach them at CWF Mid Atlantic 24/7. Schedules on the wall. I always check out Indie Insiders with my man Randy Hedrick. He keeps you up to date on what's going on.
Yeah, Randy's a tremendous guy. He's a good friend of mine as well. I've known Randy a long time.
Yeah. If it wasn't for Randy, a lot of these indie promotions in North Carolina between 1999 and probably 2008 wouldn't have had half the publicity that they did.
Oh, we could do a whole podcast just on Randy, but for Randy, you got to go back before then. You got to go back to like 94, 95 when he was doing a lot of work with ACW, when they used to come through Trinity a lot. And man, they would have some names on their card. You know, they had Wahoo and the Freebirds, and man, I remember going to one of their shows, and I guess this was probably 94, 95, and they had on their card they had Jimmy Valiant, the Fabulous Freebirds, the Rock and Roll Express, the Barbarian, Wahoo McDaniels, Ron Garvin. I mean, you go to their show and you thought that you were at a Jim Crockett promotion show. I mean, it would be sold out, and then they'd have names on the whole card. It was just tremendous, the stuff they used to do.
I remember ACW.
They had a good deal going.
I actually went. That was my first indie show I ever went to.
Okay.
Was ACW in 1994 here in Burlington.
Okay.
And they had the main event was Wahoo versus Greg Valentine. I thought it was 1980.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot. Valentine did a lot of work for him too.
They had Ivan Koloff on that show. That's where I met Tim Blaze. Got to be friends with him. They brought Valiant in. They brought Buddy Landell in. You'll pop for this one. They had Sweet Hansen in for a show.
Oh wow!
Didn't have him working. Just had him had him as a guest.
Yeah.
And that was the night. That was a memorable night, just because I got to meet Sweet Hansen, and he was like, "You know who I am?" I'm like, "Yeah, what you wrestling ton growing up."
Uh-huh.
That was the first night I got into a conversation with Randy Hedrick. Ended up with me losing $5 to him for an autograph picture of Sting, which I still rib him about. And that was also the night of the OJ Bronco chase.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, good old Head Rocks. Gotta love him. Well, well, Brian, it was definitely a good catching up with you, and learning more stuff about each other that we didn't know, and of course talking wrestling and how much it's changed and where everybody's at, you know, at this point in our life and our career.
Yeah. Give me a call back. We got to do some music. Come on.
Yeah,
too much metal concerts. Too many concerts.
Yeah, we'll definitely do a show just on music because we have a lot in common there as well. But again, I thank you for your time, and fans will be hearing you again next week with episode 4. Going to have another special guest on our show, and thank you for your support. And remember to check us out on our Facebook page, the BengeBuster Show, and also you can hear this show and the other shows on iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us with another exciting edition of the BengeBuster Show. Remember to like us on our Facebook page, and you can hear this show on iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify.